Good afternoon, folks. If you're here today, first off, if you're new to this channel, hit the like button and hit the bell for notifications, and we'll go from there. Now, today's talk is about how did Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky get to where they were. Okay. First off, Karl Marx. The person who was very well famous for all the communism to begin with. First, you gotta go back in time to 1871, when the first ever thought of communism ever even thought of. When those were the first time when war was ever even thought of. Karl Marx was raising the thoughts throughout the whole entire area. He was a German-born citizen. He always thought of communism as the quick way out. He always sent words to his followers. But obviously, after the French lost the war in the Franco-Prussian War, Napoleon gone. No one really to set structure in the country of France. The Paris Commune War kind of took place, which is kind of like a French Civil War taking place. It was kind of like communists versus democracy people taking on one another. So they all take each other on. War was won by the free people, and that's how it all ended. So, just a few years later, 12 years later, Karl Marx dies. He dies of, I can't remember what his health problem was, but he dies. 1883. So, shortly in the middle of World War I in 1918, Germany already in disarray because of the war going on, fighting against France and other countries, but in the middle of that, Russia has its own problem. First off, they all got this idea from Karl Marx, who pretty much left the legacy of how to begin all this. Karl Marx, who was all about communism. Then you have Joseph Stalin, Vladimir Lenin, who wanted to rule the country, and Trotsky, who had a very similar thought. All Trotsky wanted to do was rule the country. But Lenin didn't want necessarily to do that, but he wanted to pretty much just keep the country there. But when the Civil War broke out, it pretty much took Russia like the original war did. Took Russia out of the war. But the Russian Tsar, was murdered. He was murdered. But if Russia would have stayed neutral and never entered the war, this probably never would have even happened. The Russian Civil War probably never would have happened. Just something to think about. Let me know what you would think in the comments down below. What you think. Honestly, tell me what you think. Do you think Russia would have ever entered the Civil War? Would have ever had a Civil War if that would ever happen? Lenin, Stalin, and Trotsky were all in the underground group. We're all running an underground group of communists. Then the Civil War broke out in October of 1917, and literally started the whole Russian Revolution with the Bolsheviks. Then the people, that's the leftists, then the people on the right, who were pretty much all free people, wanted to stop that. And they pretty much all almost did. Pretty much all in complete disarray, they came out with other things. And it almost did. And it worked. If you think about the Battle of Bull Run, put it to this perspective. Battle of Bull Run. The Union pretty much almost had that battle won. They had them all backed up, literally defeated. But then Stonewall Jackson raised up and had them fix bayonets at the end of their guns. And this one guy from the Confederacy, without the orders of Stonewall Jackson, disobeyed a direct order from Stonewall Jackson, charged, but somehow that was what managed to win the war. But did not face any disciplinary action. Only because it helped him win the war. Win that battle. And it just charged down through, and Stonewall Jackson charged right at them. And that's how he got his name, Stonewall Jackson, because he stood tall, stood straight up, and bullets were shooting all around him, like he was a stone. Like he was a brick wall. That's why they call him Stonewall Jackson. But back to the point here. The battle pretty much, when the communists pretty much ruled that country, then the war was over. Now we shift over to 1919. Now, war's still going on in Russia, but then we shift over to Germany in 1919. Pretty much everything's going on there. But then, 1924, Joseph Stalin, he dies. Lenin dies. Then it's Joseph Stalin. An election between Stalin and Stausky. Stalin rises to power. Stalin is elected into office. And Stalin takes over. The communists rule the country. Now, the question you're asking yourself is, why didn't Stalin take action and try to do what Germany didn't do? Well, first off, that's a good question. Nobody knows to this day why that didn't happen. Now, if Stausky did, he would have, because he was all about expanding communism everywhere. Stalin wasn't. He wanted to be more of a laid back and let everybody take the bait. Because that's exactly what he did with Hitler. Though he was awfully ignorant. That's the difference between the two. Stalin was very ignorant. He was smart in some areas, but yet he was ignorant. But yet, the people could see right through his ignorance. The Russian people could see right through his ignorance. But yet, what they couldn't do was make him understand. But once other people, but then he was just like Hitler. He would kill people that were his opposition. And they make it one whole party. In which it was exactly what happened. And that is technically what it is to this day. A one whole party system. Which is sad. And now, with that being said, how would a one party system even work? Very simple. He was very authoritarian. He would pretty much go around killing anybody he didn't really agree with him. Just like Hitler did. Even his own officers. He pretty much was one of those kind, there's no retreat. There's absolutely no retreat. You retreat, you die. Whatever the cost, we will not let our country get taken over by Germany. When Hitler invaded Germany. Not Hitler, Germany. What am I thinking? When Hitler invaded Russia. Now, if he was smart enough, he never would have done that. Now, on the other hand, when Poland and when Hitler invaded Poland, the Soviet Union, aka Russia, came on the other side and worked with him. Now, if he was smart enough, he never would have really done anything. He would have sided with the United States. Well, not necessarily the United States. He would have sided with the Allies, like France, England, and all of them. He would have sided with all of them. They would have done that. But instead, he sided with England, and he sided with Germany, and went like that. Crushed Poland, and left nothing for them. So, then he just went behind Stalin's back, in which Stalin was dumb enough to see, and just attacked Stalin behind his back. But that's just the way Hitler was. That's just the way Stalin was. Now, Lenin, on the other hand, not Lenin, but Stalin, on the other hand, he most likely would have started World War II. He would have been the one starting World War II. There would never would have been Nazi Germany. The rise of Nazi Germany would have been the start. He would have nailed World War II. He would have gone right through there and destroyed Hitler from the start. He would have gone right through Europe and destroyed Hitler in a heartbeat. There would not have been Nazi Germany. We would have been on the side of Nazi Germany, most likely. He would have started World War II from the very start. Who knows? He would have actually probably invaded Japan. It would have been the Soviet Union versus the world. Just something to think about. And who knows what would have happened. Heck, they might have even gone as far south as taken in Vietnam. I mean, heck, it's such a big country, they could have gone literally everywhere over there. Well, at the time they were known as Viet Minh, heck, there may not even been a Vietnam War, for that matter. If you think about it, if Towski was elected, because he wanted power, he was power hungry. That's just the way he was. So many things to think about there. But Karl Marx is the square root of communism. Nobody ever would have thought of communism if it hadn't been for Karl Marx. And that is the square root of communism. Karl Marx. If you really want to think about how Karl Marx really did all this thing, I suggest you look him up and try to read about him. But, on the other hand, how did this war even start? How did any of these wars even begin? Well, when Stalin was in power, he kicked him out. He kicked out Skalski, and then out of Russia. He went over to Mexico, but ordered a hit on him, and found out where he was and killed him. No more Stalin. Couldn't really do anything. So now it's all Stalin. If he would have kept his right-hand man, he probably would have done better. But then the Cold War started. But he really wasn't that ignorant. He was all scared about capitalism. And that is on for another day, about how this country would be if communism went one way and capitalism another way, of how what countries have ever fought at war with communism. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.